Oh, hello, how are you doing? Today I'm going to follow up on one of the little shorts you might have seen. This is where you got the 3 different decks producing basically the same sound but with different traces. I want to see if we can just see what it is, and I'll let you know how this happened. So that's what we're going to do. I was going to do it with a picture-in-picture, but actually it's better off if I just do voiceover with the graphics. What we're looking at here is an Audacity trace for two different mechanisms of tracks, and we'll go from there. And you can see there it's not really looking very good. So this is the first trace, which is basically the beginning of my test things, which is the white noise, pink noise, buffeting, and a bit of music. So here we go. So from there to there is one deck, and then on there to there is another deck, and then from there to there is the same deck as we just seen, but having fiddled with it a bit, and you can see it's a slightly different shape. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to change the zoom so you can see them more bunched up. And as you can see here, that bit is not quite the same shape and pattern as the bit next to it, which was the first go. So that bit is slightly better in shape than that bit, and but neither of them are looking that good. And you have to remember, those are 2 separate traces from exactly the same bit of the tape. So that's a mess. Now this is the other deck. We're looking at that again. And you can see that was also a mess. That was the same mess, similar to this one, but not as much as. But that one's much better. So it's a bit strange, really strange. But I know exactly what that was. So now we'll just line up and we'll play a bit of it, see how it sounds. I think you'll be surprised. It's not what you'd expect. Okay, so that's the signal with 1 kilohertz. Then it's followed by this, which is the white noise, and then it's followed by this, which is the pink noise. I think you can tell it's not doing very well. Then we're going to go on to the bass drop, which sounds absolutely awful. Where we want to go. And then we should go into the music. That does not sound good. Anyway, so we stop that there. We go on to the next deck, which is this one, and you can hear similar sounds. Now this is a separate mechanism playing the tape at a different tone. So what I did then was I actually stopped it and started it again, and that's where the second trace along this bit came from. Where we want to go. As you can hear, it's slightly better than the first one. The shape is better. Where we want to go. And then this is what the other one sounded like on the same bit of voice. But it's still really awful. I wouldn't want to listen to that one. What we're looking at here is the trace from the ion playing back the same tape. Now this is where it actually starts, and that's what we were looking at previously. And you see it's a better shape, and overall I think it's going to be a little bit better. But we'll see how we go from here. So what we'll do is we'll line it up. You can see all the way along there. It's quite a stable looking trace. But we'll line it up and we'll play it from about here. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. This pulsing and clicking was actually evident on both the deck, the teac and the ion, but it did not do it in the Sony. So we don't know what's going on there. That's down to the shell, obviously, but weird. So it's just the supply or the take-up wheel going click, click, click. Often heard that, but it sorted itself out later when I wiggled it about. Where we want to go by Patricos. Dynamic and clean. You can hear there, that was much better. That was quite listenable. So, what I'm doing here is I'm going to play back some of the sounds that you've already seen. Let me just set the volume up. I've got a problem with that. Okay. Now, so okay, we've got everything sorted out. Right. So what we're going to do now is play back a bit of this trace, which you can see on the screen now. Now, this trace is from the same deck as we had the previous bits from, and you can see it's got a bit of a stop and a start on it. Now, it's full width, and if you look at this bit here, there was a what you might call a false start. So there is the false start, and of that false start there is a line which is there where you wonder where it's come from, and that is where I stopped and started the tape and let it then play again. So you can see that there is a difference between here and the other bit. And then when we got the final take, so that's there, then you got the final take here, which is this one. So very quickly, just play this bit of white noise and things. Okay, so it's playing that bit of white noise, and then, oh, that's the tone. Then there's a gap where I actually stopped and started it, then there's the white noise. Now, you can hear that the white noise is much better than it was, and it's got a bit of phasing, so that's why I then stopped it, took the tape out, and that's why we've got this. So that whole section there was essentially 2 false starts. But this one is where I then sorted out the tape, and this is what it sounded like. Then we come to the white noise, no phasing. Then we get to the pink noise, still no phasing. So that's all good. It's all good. Buffeting, bass drop,
where we want to go,
and then we got the voice and a bit of music. So we'll just let that just play just a few seconds so you can hear the difference. Anyway, yeah, sorry, got carried away there. Right, so that's that doing that, and we'll go from there. So here we have the Sony on the top and the Ion on the bottom, and you can see that there's a bit of a weird shape there, which I don't really understand what that is. I think I know what it is. I'll tell you a little bit later on, and if anybody knows any better, they can put their answers in the comments, and if we can get some sort of consensus, maybe we can find out what it was. Anyway, that's the Ion there, and you can see it's got very good frequency response. It goes up to the 20 kilohertz, but it's a weird shape getting there. Compare that to the Sony. And now we're looking at the teac, and you can see there is a similarity to the Ion's trace, but the peaks and troughs are much more defined. But however, it only goes up to about 19 kilohertz. 20 kilohertz, there is a pulse, but it's not as good as the Sony and not as good as the Ion. The Ion, of course, is a $100 machine, and maybe these machines are better than people think. So let's look at the Sony silence in comparison to the teac silence. Actually, the teac silence is slightly quieter, but it's the Sony is pretty damn good, and the teac is almost as good. Now this Ion is several dB higher, but it's nice and flat. And then we get onto these frequency sweeps, and if you look at the teac on the top and the Ion at the bottom, you can see there is a similarity, but they're not the same. The Ion loses a few mid-range frequencies around about the 9 to 10 kilohertz, which the teac doesn't, and but then the Ion actually manages to go higher into the 20 kilohertz range. The actual spikes are about the same height as the ones on the Sony trace, but obviously the mush is very much higher, and I don't understand that because the actual tape silence is the same or similar. So what is happening here? Anybody got any answers? Put them in the comments down below. Back to this bit, the variations in the phasing in that are caused by the tape running awry in the tape path. When it ran off the leader, you could hear a crunching and clicking sound. The clicking was causing the pulsing, and the crunching was the tape running slightly off true, and that was the effect on there and on there. Now, it happened on two separate mechanisms, but it didn't happen to the same extent on the Ion, and that had a similar mechanism in it, but it didn't happen at all on the Sony. And I only illustrate that, or use that to illustrate the point that just because a tape runs badly in one machine doesn't mean it will run badly in another. And because a tape runs badly in that machine doesn't mean that machine is wrong. It just means that that tape and that machine are having a bad day and shouldn't be together. They should get divorced and they should separate. And that's the best way to deal with it. But if you do have a problem, try taking the tape out, giving it a wiggle, putting it back in again. You may well find that everything's fine, which is basically what I did. I think it's a strange thing, this video. I don't normally like to leave them sort of ambiguous. I like to at least have a conclusion. And the only conclusion I can come with on this one is it's weird. I think the problem is that it's a NOS tape stock that was put into the shell. But possibly the shell's got a slight problem as well. I don't honestly know. I shall have to investigate that further. If I do find out the answers, I'll let you know. Anyway, if you've got any ideas, put them in the comments below. And in the meantime, if you've got anything from this, or if you just want to sort of get more of the same sort of thing, then please click on a like, click on a share, do all that sort of good stuff. Let's try and get the channel out there. And the more people that watch it, the more interaction we can have, and the better it will be. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Catch you another time. A couple of videos popping up here. You might find them useful. And see you again.